On Thursday, 24th February 1870, a heavy winter snowstorm hit Edinburgh. In the days following, the temperatures barely reached above freezing, and further snow fell, disrupting life in the city. It was thanks to this that on Friday 25th, a snowball riot, as it was called, ensued. However, it wasn't the first. In 1838, the peace of the Old Town was disrupted by a 2-day snowball throwing event, when University of Edinburgh students began launching them at some idle tradesmen on Thursday, 11th January that year. It began between 2 and 3 in the afternoon, most likely when the workmen were having their lunch, and was friendly enough to begin with. But the students then started throwing snowballs at passers-by, and windows on the opposite side of the street were broken. Soon the police came and apprehended some of the students, but on convincing them they and around 50 other students wouldn't do it again, they were released. No sooner had they gained their liberty than the group met in the quadrangle of the college with up to 300 others and made plans to continue the fight the next day, but not just with snowballs, but cudgels and other weapons. Sure enough, the following day, they met and threw showers of snowballs over the college gate, some of them with stones in their centres. Numerous panes of glass were broken on the opposite side of the road, and several people were injured by the snowballs. A large crowd gathered to watch, but the shops closed as a precaution. Again, police arrived, and as their numbers swelled, they tried to burst open the northern gates of the college. A pitched battle commenced, with both sides hitting the other with sticks and batons, and some of the men ended up being severely injured. The police managed to arrest 37 students and dragged them one by one to the police office. They were soon released on bail. At around 3:30, the Provost, James Forrest, arrived, along with magistrates, to try and calm the situation down. But the students were having none of it, so he went to the castle and brought back a detachment from the 79th Regiment, complete with muskets and bayonets. The army stormed the college, and by evening, calm had returned, with the crowd finally dispersing. The 1870 snowball fight was just as noteworthy as its predecessor. At the South Bridge and Nicholson Street opposite the University of Edinburgh and the Surgeons' Hall, students left their early morning classes and entered onto the streets. There were a few stragglers who began throwing snowballs at passers-by. As some hit the local shop windows, the shopkeepers decided to put up their shutters to protect the glass. Nothing much happened until around midday. A few police officers were patrolling the area, but reinforcements were called in, and once the students saw them, they began making more snowballs in the quadrangle of the university. Soon they were pelting the officers, and for a few minutes had the upper hand, much to their delight. However, the police were less than impressed. They drew their truncheons and charged at the rioters, forcing them back into the university behind the gates, which were then duly locked. Meanwhile, a large crowd had gathered opposite the college to watch the spectacle, and soon they too were being pelted with snowballs from the students. Every time one of the students hit one of the crowd or a police officer, a loud cheer went up from the rest of the student body. The crowd began retaliating, but soon another detachment of officers arrived and told them to move on. For a short time there was a lull, but as the students got tired of waiting to hit people, they began pelting shop windows and houses opposite. Nearly all the premises had taken the precaution of closing the shutters on the lower windows, but one window was broken and nearly every small pane of glass in the upper floor windows were smashed. Between 1 and 2 o'clock, the classes at the Surgeons' Hall were dismissed, and these students began a snowball fight among themselves. They soon got bored and began pelting onlookers. Initially, it was all taken in good humour, as people dodged being hit, but 2 more bodies of constables arrived at the scene of the snowball fight, headed up by Lieutenants McClellan and Thompson. The students bombarded these new officers with snowballs, more force behind them. A plan was hatched, and soon officers were heading towards the students through a back gate, which had been opened, while another contingent entered the grounds via the main entrance. The garrison of students fought valiantly for a time, but the larger contingent and the truncheons of the police force prevailed, and 13 students were arrested. Even more reinforcements arrived, as the 13 were hauled to the police office in the High Street. A number of the police officers lost their tempers, and some of the students were manhandled roughly. The remaining students, and many onlookers, hissed and booed at the officers, but none tried to free those arrested. They were accompanied by a large crowd to the police office, who, although had been on the receiving end of the snowballs thrown by the students, cheered them on and began throwing snowballs at the constables' hats. 2 or 3 times, the rear guard of the escort charged the crowd, but no arrests were made, with the exception of an urchin who was in the act of throwing a snowball. This caused much derisive laughter amongst the onlookers. At around 4 o'clock, the main event moved to the college, where the police intended to arrest more of the students who'd been involved in the snowball fight. However, the students got wind of the proposed attack. In addition, there had been yet another heavy snowfall in the intervening hours, providing them with ammunition for another snowball attack, firing them from within the college gates with renewed enthusiasm. The gates were closely watched by the students, making it impossible for more arrests to be made. Every so often, shouts of John Brown went up in honour of their successful stand against the authorities. Between 4 and 5 o'clock, they began to gradually leave the college or made their way to their classrooms, and when it became dark, the police too left the scene, the snowball riot now at an end, and the streets returning to normal. 3 of the students that had been apprehended for the snowball fight appeared at the police court the following day, charged with the breach of police regulations, but all of them pleaded not guilty. On the Saturday, they were found guilty by the court, and each fined between 10 and 40 shillings for their part in the riot. They were given the choice of paying up, or if they failed to do so, they had the option of 10 days imprisonment. All the fines were paid. Shortly after the court proceedings were over, an attempt was made by the students to resume the riotous and disorderly conduct which had attracted so much attention the previous Thursday. For a few hours, they threw snowballs at passers-by over the college gates. Police asked onlookers for restraint and asked them not to return snowballs to the students. As shopkeepers near the college had closed their shutters once more, only a few passengers on a passing bus or cab were targeted. A number of glass panes in the upper windows opposite the college were damaged, however. As they had no one retaliating, The students soon gave up, and the streets once more returned to normality. This time, no arrests were made. If you enjoyed this episode of Scotland's History, please like, comment and subscribe. Until next time, thank you for watching.